Where are you, sir? Oh, there we are. Hey,
Hello.
how you doing, pal?
Nice to see you. Thanks for having
And
me
you,
on.
sir. And you share the name with my favourite comic book writer.
Oh, do I? I've not heard of him.
Oh, goodness me. Absolutely, absolutely. So, how are you, sir? Nice to meet you.
I'm fine, thank you. Nice to meet you as well. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Speaking to you from Blackpool.
Fantastic. Well, live from Blackpool.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. What a great town. So, hit me with it. What is your favourite? What would you personally regard, Al, as your favourite record of all time? And give me a potted history of why and the reasons around it.
Right. Well, there's two actually. There's one of them is one of your albums actually, funnily enough, which is the Young Gods album.
Okay.
And but that came later in my musical history.
Right.
But the first album that I really was into was, I just heard Rumours by Fleetwood Mac. And I was listening to that when I was 18 years old in 87. Wow. So, and then how I got to this album, my favourite album of all time, which is...
Oh, it's a bit blurry. Oh, yes, okay, yeah. Fantastic, yeah.
Well, yeah. I was watching Little Angels, funny enough, in 1987.
Okay.
And you came on the television on something called Famous for 15 Minutes. So anyway, I was watching that and I thought, I'm not into rock music. I don't like it. So and it was really good. And as each song built and built, it was a really good performance. And then the last song is Burning Me, which is my favorite
wow
song.
I'm almost speechless, really. I mean, it's so nice to hear this after all these, after so many years. I mean, it seems like seconds ago to me that we were leaping around like idiots.
So there's like the performance is actually on YouTube. You can see it. So there's like this pause, and then it was as if you came like bursting through this television screen, pulled me into the audience. It was really good, and then it was all over. It was really good.
Oh wow! Thanks, man.
Yeah. So.
Wow. That's incredible. It's incredible to know that these things mean so much after all these years.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay. So but in terms of going back to your Fleetwood Mac years,
yeah.
How did you arrive at that decision? Where did that initial inspiration come from for loving Fleetwood Mac?
I wasn't into anything that was going on at the time. There was all this stuff like, it's good music, but it just didn't appeal to me. 87, you had like Rick Astley and and you had the Pet Shop Boys and what was it, U2, just not for me. Because that was the year the Joshua Tree came out, that big album.
Yeah.
And it's good music, but it just wasn't for me.
Okay.
So I was listening to Rumours, and then I saw Little Angels. And my friend said to me, let's go to the Brighton Record Fair, which is a great big record fair in Brighton.
Mm.
And I went down there. There was this guy, he had a rock and roll store, rock music.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said to him, I've seen this really good group called Little Angels on telly. Could you tell me, have you got their records? And he said, I think I'm aware of them, but I don't know, I haven't got their music. Because I think all you had was the EP.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose that was right at the beginning. Yeah. Right at the beginning of it all. And it's interesting because even back then when, almost like everyone was kind of drip fed everything, I mean, like there was only, how many outlets were there? There was TV. I mean, we were lucky to get on Famous 15 Minutes as an example. Very, very, very lucky. Yeah. But really, once you kind of got on national television, where else was there to go? Top of the Pops. If you got on Radio 1, you had that opportunity,
So what I got my friend to do recently, I spent it a bit naughty. I shouldn't have done it, but he actually burnt it onto a DVD for me.
Oh, you're fine, pal. Don't you worry about that.
Because I'm sure the performance is going to go at some point. Anyway, so I was speaking to this guy in his store, and then I saw this album, a vinyl copy of it up there on his display.
Right.
And I said, I didn't know they had a career before Fleetwood Mac. And he said, yeah, they did. He said, that's how they were discovered. And I said, wow. And I stood there looking at it. It was £25 for the vinyl. That was a lot of money for an 18-year-old in those days.
God, it's a lot of money now.
It was £25, and I thought, I can't afford it. So he said to me, look, if it's not sold, he said, what I'll do is I'll do a tape of it for you and post it to you. And he took my address. I gave him £5 and he sent me a tape of it. Yeah.
Oh, what a cool bloke. That's a great thing to do, isn't it?
He was, yeah. I said, I just can't afford it. But I said, I'd really like a copy of it. And he, you know, and it's a good album. It's like, it's a prelude to that Rumours album, you know.
Absolutely. So what is it? So what is it, Al, about it that what can you pinpoint the reasons why you feel so enamored by it? I
just like the music on it and the way they looked and the story behind it, how they were basically going to be dropped, I think, by the record label because the promotion hadn't gone well. And then I think Mick Fleetwood, he said to them, he wanted Lindsay to join.
Yeah.
So he said, well, I'll think about it. And then apparently he came back and said, look, I will join, but you've got to take Stevie as well.
Right.
Because she's my musical partner, my girlfriend, and we come as a package.
Right.
So that's how they joined it. So, but the music on it's really good. If you ever get a chance,
is it something to do with the? I mean, what I'm fascinated by about these sorts of things is that part of the reason why I think we like stuff is it's in the appeal and how it appeals to us and how it reflects ourselves and our own personalities. I think that's as a general broad stroke. Yeah. But I think there's also quite a lot of hidden things. Like I can't really explain when people say to me, "Explain why you love Queen so much or why you love David Bowie so much." And actually, when I try and stop and think about it, once I get past the obvious, boring cliches, there's something more below the surface that's a lot more potent that I can't put my finger on, you know. And it's a combination of small elemental things that make up the sum of a whole. But all I know is that without that music, I wouldn't function.
I still listen to it now. I still listen to it. It's just like, in the mornings, it's not on Alexa because it's never been officially released. You always had to get the vinyl or a bootleg of it, but it's just an album. I've just always had it. It's essential. And how it flopped, I don't know. Apparently, it's to do with the promotion. It's such a good album. I know you said you don't like Fleetwood Mac, but if you ever get a chance to listen to it, and his guitar playing is really good. He's a good musician.
Interesting enough, I've got absolute total and utter respect for them as a band, utterly respectful of them as players. Yeah. And I really love Fleetwood Mac when they had Peter Green. I was really into their very early stuff. It's an unexplainable thing, really, isn't it? It's like that's why these kind of lists are so ridiculous, really, that somebody somewhere decides that they can say, "Oh, well, we know better than you." You know, actually, this is, you know, you're all wrong. You know, this is what we.
Do you know what your band Little Angels and they've got in common? Do you know what that is?
Please, pray tell.
You were both Polydor artists.
Ah, well, yes, of course.
Yeah.
The great Polydor. Yeah. Well, I mean, fascinating stuff. I mean, how did you feel? I mean, what do you are you the kind of fan of, say, just going back to Fleetwood Mac a moment here, are you the kind of fan that would then you own everything that they've got? No? Specifically to that album, those two albums, is it?
Yeah, I like the first two albums they did, and I like that, and I like Stevie Nicks' Belladonna album, which was good, and that's about it, really. They're not a band that I would seek out everything.
Wow.
A lot of the stuff I don't like. Well, most of it. But it's about 4 or 5 albums that I say I like.
Wow, amazing. But that to me, that's kind of I think that's a really, really interesting thing, because I think, you know, ultimately, you know, a lot of people get involved in bands, don't they, for the whole of their lives. You know, you follow it from day one, for album one to the end of the. But I'm not like that, actually. Funnily enough, I mean, I kind of go off. I've gone off bands. Because I do think bands hit their peak, you know, and they kind of like they may have. Then it's really down to whether they can reclaim it at any point. And I think that's why why I'm such a big fan of Queen, because even though they had some pretty you know, Hot Space wasn't a great record. There was moments on it, but the reality is that they returned to form later on. You know, they were able to sort of wax Wayne and find their way back into the bracket, if you like. You know, but not every band's like that. You know, I mean, you know, and there are lots of examples of that. But
with your band as well, I only rediscovered them in 1991. I had them on the back burner, but if I ever came across it, I was going through HMV, meet my mates in London for a drink.
Yeah,
I went into HMV. This is 1991. I said, "Oh my God, that's the group that I liked," and I bought the album, and I thought, "There's not virtually every track could be a single on that."
Wow. So that was that the Young Gods record then? Yeah. I mean, I think if push comes,
to backtrack to get the others in.
Oh man, well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. It's a massively important thing. I mean, I love hearing these stories. You know, it's I often sort of think that, you know, as an artist, you don't know how these things reveal themselves to people. Do you know what I mean? All we do is make the records and hope for the best, and then it's kind of the relationship you have with the fans is then something that develops over time. You know, but I'm often hearing stories of people saying, "Oh, you know, well, I found the Jam album first, and I went back, and now the first album's my favorite," that sort of thing. So I guess it's really just a case of how you find your entry point, really, isn't it?
It's like Bon Jovi. They, you know, a lot of people, some of my friends that really like them, and I like one of their songs, just one.
Right.
But with your band, it's like I like virtually everything.
Wow. Oh, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. Thanks, Al.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it then. Yeah.
Magic, man. Well, thank you so much.
I'll give someone else a chance now.
Good stuff. I will listen. Please come back again. I mean, have you been on Patreon before? Have you been watching us on?
Oh yeah, I've watched your other stuff. Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, now we know you. I'm not going to leave you alone. The fact you're willing to come on the screen, that's all good for me.
Okay, mate.
Thanks, pal. Digital round of applause for Al there, folks, please. So who wants to come up next? Who's next? Okay, what we got here? Okay, Steve. Let's go, Steve. Let's go, Stephen Waldron. Let's have some ladies. We need some ladies. Oh, crying out loud. It's all gone completely. Hang on, bloody Nora. Hang on, where are you? There we are. Hang on. Hang on, what's going on here? I can't. Oh, Stephen, please don't do that. What the hell? I can't. This is so bloody complicated, this thing. Oh, bloody hell. Oh, there we are. Hang on. Sorry, you disappeared. Oh, there we are. Stephen, here we go. Stephen, right. Oh, got completely out of control there. I lost control of the Tinterweb. It got completely scooped and zoomed away. So there we are. Fantastic. So we've got Mr. Stephen Waldron coming up next to talk about his favourite record. Very interesting to hear what this gentleman has to say. So please, ladies, let's have some ladies, please. It doesn't have to be a sausage fest, if you know what I mean. So yes, that's that we are. Well, thanks again to Al for that. I'm just waiting for Stephen. Don't know where he's gone. There's an invite going out there. Who else would like to come on? Who else would like to come on? Julie, come on. What about you, Julie? Claire. Come on, Julie. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Here he is. How are you, sir?
All right, I've got to turn that off. I'm all right, Toad. I'm on the telephone. I didn't think it would work.
So how are you?
I'm eating some wine gums.
Well, what other gum would we be eating?
No, I'm all right, mate.
Greatest sweet ever made. So, sir, it's the $1 million question, and I'm sure knowing yourself that I do, this will be an intelligent, eloquent answer. But please lay it on me. Let's not have any skirting around the issues. What is your favourite record, and give me some reasons why?
There are two, but the reason it's not "Don't Pray for Me" is because it came out in 1989.
Okay, yeah,
and The Big Lad came out in '86.
Oh, okay.
So for me, it's.
Oh yes, yeah, It Bites. Yes, of course. The Big Lad in the Windmill, is it? Or it's called?
It's The Big Lad in the Windmill from It Bites.
Brilliant record, though, isn't it?
Obviously, it's a personal thing, and at the time when it came out, I was 14. and I was completely into it. At 14, I was into absolutely ridiculous music, not just your normal, like all my mates, the normal rock stuff. And because I had an older brother, he kept giving me all these different bands to listen and check out. So I was very fortunate in that.
Give me a list. Give me a list of these crazy stuff. This crazy stuff you were listening to.
I probably was the only 13-year-old heavily into Joni Mitchell and Steely Dan and you know, all that type of music, because I kind of got bored of the normal rock song. I was into all these bands, all the rock bands, whether it's stateside or the UK side. But it just, even as a 13, 14, 15-year-old, it got boring in the end, because every band, not every band, but a lot of bands were playing the same things, the same chords, the same rhythms. Yeah. No one was taking any chances and being really creative. And so I just got into, through The Big Lad and the Windmill, which isn't your normal pop rock album, as you probably know.
Well, I think it's a great record.
Yeah, and it opened so many windows for me musically. I got so heavily into. Well, I wanted to know why a band would write a song like "I Got You Eaten Out of My Own Hand," the first song, and I'm thinking, where does all this come from? You know, a bit like how do you write Bohemian Rhapsody? I mean, how? I mean, kids these days just haven't got it in them to write songs like this.
So just to pinpoint it though, I mean, I know Frank Dunnery. Frank's, you know, he's been. I haven't seen Frank for years, but I knew Frank very well back in the Angels days, and he's an incredibly complex, emotionally sort of like switched on guy. You know, he's a big intellect, got a wicked sense of humor, very sharp sense of humor, you know. And I guess really that was I mean, I witnessed him when he was making his first solo record, and how quickly that album came together and how quickly the songs were formed. I mean, where do you pinpoint your enjoyment of it, really, of that album? I mean, how did it first attract you? Was it the sound of the record? Was it specifically the songwriting? Was it Frank's guitar playing? Was it, you know what I mean? What was the thing? What was that spark?
Yeah. Before the record came out, and I don't know exactly, but before the record came out, we actually went and watched them live. And I didn't know of the band at all. Right. I'd never seen them live, but it was at a time when I was allowed to go to concerts with my brother, you know, taking me under his wing, and I was allowed to go out and watch all these different bands. And they actually supported the pop band Go West.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what I was doing at a Go West concert, but I did, and and that's when I first saw them live. And I saw them live as a support band, and I was very up close, like literally. I mean, it was different in those days. There was the stage, then the 20 meters or whatever it is before you see the first person in the audience.
Of course, yeah.
So I was very up close, and obviously, you know, Frank is a monster. He was, you know, 6'5", I don't know, huge, massive hands. Yeah. I mean, some of the things he does on a guitar, you can't play anyway, unless you have that type of hand.
Totally.
You know, you just can't move your hand on the fret and do all the stuff that he was doing. And I was initially blown away that this guitarist was playing all this intricate stuff, fantastic melodies, harmonies, and he was singing as well. And I was blown away from the fact that he was playing these different rhythms against a rhythm in his voice, you know, singing all these different songs.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that really blew me away. And so you know, it's a personal thing, but I would come home from high school and I would stick the record on vinyl, and I'd put the headphones on, and I would be, you know, it'd be A side, B side, A side, B side, until someone called and said, your dinner's ready, you got to come and have your dinner or whatever. and I'd been totally into the whole album for like a year.
Wow.
It just completely blew me away. But it opened so many different doors. And then when I started listening to, my brother would say, but before It Bites came, they would have listened to bands like, and then the list of these bands started. And so I was getting, not force fed these different songs, but I was given these different albums to go and, if I wanted to go and listen to.
Yeah.
And a lot of it made sense. I'm thinking, I know their influences. I can hear it. I'm not just talking about early Genesis, which obviously Frankie was a Genesis fan, but a lot of Weather Report, like Joni Mitchell. I've just been listening to Wild Things Run Fast from Joni Mitchell, which is an incredible album. And so it's that one really, because like I say, at the time I was 14 years of age, and that was the first album which I would have played over and over and over and over again.
So when when you put it on,
yeah,
I presume it puts you straight back to the moment you first heard it. I mean, do you think there's a kind of correlation between how, because this is what fascinates me about the, like I said, I do think environment plays a lot into the hands and circumstances a lot of the time, like when you hear something for the first time and how it affects you. And I think there is a kind of like a switch goes on. So when you hear that record, I mean, do you play it regularly still? Is it an album that you use as a way of getting yourself back to a place you need to be sometimes? Is it what I would call like a Band-Aid record that's always there for you?
No, not really. I actually downloaded Frank's new record, which comes highly recommended. It's only available on a download. Fantastic, unbelievable. I do occasionally use this record for some of the students that need a good easy song to play to. So I might play All in Red, which is a really easy song for a drummer that wants to keep time, just a song to put on, or even the hit that they had, Calling All the Heroes, which is got some cool little changes in, so I'll stick it on for that. If it's a mood thing and I want to be taken back to that time, then I'll stick it on and I'll play You'll Never Go to Heaven, because it just blows me away every time I hear it.
Right.
But I need to get it back on vinyl. I can't find it. I did have it on vinyl and I've got it on CD, but I can't find it. I can't find it anywhere. And I was looking through my vinyl today. I got the Joni Mitchell one. That's on vinyl.
Oh, I love it.
This is absolutely. I've played this today. I haven't heard this record for a long time. This is fantastic as well. From '82. Yeah. We need artists like this to come back and make records.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, and I think, again, like I was saying to Al, a lot of the time when we discover these artists, you are with them for life, until they kind of, I don't know, sometimes the bands fizzle out and lose, don't have any ideas left, but there's always still something there, isn't there? There's always that still, oh God, I still love them, because you remember what it was all about when you first heard them, it's hard to let go of it, actually, in a lot of ways.
I just got to tell a quick story before the next one comes on. When I was studying music in LA, at the time, Donna Perry from Jethro Tull was teaching at the school.
Oh, wow.
And he told me, he said, because I had an It Bites T-shirt on at the school, and he said to me, the lads are in town. Los Angeles, it's not a little small town. And I'm oh, really? He said, yeah, they're going to start. They're in pre-production. They're doing some work downtown. And I went, oh, can you tell me where they are? I'd love to go and see if I could meet them. And on one of the weekends, I've gone into this club. I've got fake ID, by the way, because I was 18 at the time. You have to be 21 to go into these clubs, and I've got fake ID. And Bob Dalton was sat there having a cigarette, drinking, and I was completely, when you see, I went, Bob, and he went, yeah. I went, fucking hell. He said, take a seat. And I went, yeah. I said, are you all here? And he said, yeah, we're all here. This was the thing. We're all here, apart from Frank. And I went, this would have been the summer of 90. And I went, where's Frank? He said, he left the band yesterday.
Oh, no.
And I was completely dumbfounded. I was like brought to tears. I went, what? He said, yeah, he's met a girl up in San Fernando Valley, and he wants to do something different, and I don't think we're going to get him back.
Wow.
But don't tell anyone, because it's not come out yet. And I went, you're joking. But no one knows. The record company, no one knew. And Dick and John, they were there as well, and a couple of the roadie lads. Yeah, and they said, yeah, Frank's left. But I couldn't keep a secret, and I actually phoned up my brother when I got back, and it was, I don't know, something in the morning in the UK or whatever, and I said, don't tell anyone, but Frank's left it bites.
Man.
Yeah.
How random.
How crazy is that?
Crazy, pal.
Yeah.
He was a bit of a firebrand, was old Frank. I mean, I must admit, he was a hothead, but that's what made him so great and still keeps him ticking over,
But
that's the thing.
Just in case some of the others don't know, he done the hi on Womankind, didn't he?
He did, yes, indeed, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a big fan, and he was a good lad. He was very supportive, actually, to be fair to him, and a good guy, So, well, thank you so much, Stephen. That's fantastic. Great stories there. Digital round of applause for Mr. Waldron there. Thanks again, Steve. See you soon, pal. Who would like to come on next? Come on then. Roll up. Who we got? Oh, Scott. So Scott, any ladies at all? I think we'll have Scott now. Let's go Scott, and then ladies. I want a lady, please. Oh, hang on. Have we now got? I don't know if I've launched. Oh, that didn't go so well. Hang on, Scott. Sorry, pal. Very confusing, this thing here. How the hell do I do that? Oh, there we are. Right. So, Scott, you are invited. It's really interesting, this for me. Like I wouldn't have said it bites for Stephen at all, but wonderful. He's even got his lights on. Look at that. Hey, it's not even bloody December, lad.
Well, when you've got a son whose birthday's on Christmas Day, you kind of have to do things early.
I get it. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm getting better. Still full of it a little bit, I'm afraid. But hey, that's my worry. I'll another couple of days. I should be right as rain. So go on then, my old son. Let's have because I'd like to get someone else squeezed in. So
I got it down to 3.
No. Okay.
But right. So first one, Thunder, Backstreet Symphony.
That's your top album?
No, that'll be in there. That'd be up there. Then there was Magnum on A Storyteller's Night.
Oh, what a record!
Yeah, just the songwriting on that is just exceptional.
Immense album. Great choice.
Number one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gotta be that one.
All right. So paint the story. Why? Where were you when you first heard it? Why is it that? Why does it occupy that position?
I think because being a Def Leppard fan before that album, and then with what happened to Rick Allen with the accident and what have you, and the thinking that they're never going to play again, and you're never going to see him again, and the rumors were they kind of started straight away that he was going to carry on, he was going to be a drummer still, and well, how's this going to happen?
Yeah.
And then the album comes out, and I think the first song to come out was Animal. I think that was the first song released.
Indeed, it was. And
then you were thinking, they must have a different drummer. This can't be right. It can't be right. And then the album comes out, and it's song after song of some of the best rock songs that there's ever been. For me. I mean,
how old were you at this point then? So what, were you a teenager at this point?
16, 17, roundabout. Would have been, yeah.
So pivotal moment.
Yeah, but just I can remember listening to it and thinking that there's never going to be a better album than this. It was just song after song of, I think a lot of bands, if they're lucky, if they can release 1 or 2 singles off an album.
Yeah.
I think there was only about 3 songs off this album that they didn't release as singles.
That's right, pretty much.
I think it was virtually everyone, and it was whether it was the work that they did to promote in America or whatever, because obviously they were huge in America. I know they got a lot of bad press over in the UK saying that they'd sold out. People didn't think of them as a UK rock band, but I think they were better when they came back with this album than they ever were before. And, I don't think they've ever bettered this album. I think, it's just one of them ones that and I still listen to it now. I still think it is one of them albums that I can remember going to see them. They did the Download Festival a few years ago where they played it in full. And they also did the tour where they played it in full. And it's just an amazing album. And I can remember going and seeing them back in the day when they did the In the Round tour to promote that album. It was one of the first big concerts that I'd gone to. I can just remember seeing them. The NEC, they were in the middle. Just unbelievable. The first time I'd ever seen anything like that, and.
But let me just dig a little bit deeper. Let me peel back the layers of the onion a little more, Scott, here, because it fascinates me, this stuff, because I think that there is, for all the records that are released, there were a lot of great albums released around the area around that period of hysteria. It certainly was a pivotal time. There's no two ways about it. But what do you think it is that intrinsically is it something in the sound? I mean, is it the sound of? I'm interested in what you feel, how much the singer's voice contributes to it. For instance, because part of the reason why I find Rumours difficult is that I don't find their voices attractive to me, to my personal ears, and that's part of my distraction with it. Really, is that it doesn't attract me. So, what do you feel intrinsically has that sort of makes the makeup of the reasons why? Can you pinpoint it? Are you not?
I don't think I could with it. I just love. I don't think there's a bad song on the album. I think it's one of them albums where it's just the coming together of the whole. I think it's the best that they've done, and I think you can just tell how they've worked together as a band. The layers on it. There's a couple of documentaries out that go into how they put it together, and it's just how they recorded it, everything about it. And I know with Pour Some Sugar on Me was never meant to be a track on the album. I think it was something that they knocked together in the last few minutes. And it was their biggest. Probably one of the biggest songs off the album. It's just there's just little things. It's just I can't pinpoint it really with it. I just love listening to it. I still love listening to it now. I still think it's one of them albums where it just came together right for them. And
don't you think also there's something about Leopard? I mean, because for me, I'll be honest, I much prefer Pyromania, but I think that's because that was the record when I was, because I think I'm a little bit older than you. When I was at that point 16 years old and Pyromania came out, it was the record that they played at that rock club that I used to sneak into when I wasn't supposed to be there. It became part of my background, but also there's something wonderful about the fact that it was those lads from Sheffield, Yorkshire lads. I'm a Yorkshire lad. I want to be in a band. They became a worldwide, global phenomenon. And I also think the artwork was fantastic.
Yeah,
very definitive, isn't it? Of like what they represent is very much in the kind of the telling of the story through the artwork, how they look, how they progress. They felt like a real band, And I agree, and I do think the whole tragedy of Rick and all the rest of it, and the situation that they all went through, that we were all sympathetic about it, but it wouldn't have worked if they hadn't made a fantastic comeback record, a record that was really, truly great. And I can't argue that. I think that's without a doubt. So it all plays into the mythology, doesn't it? All part of the reasons why we love them,
And I think as well, I think it was finding out as well that, the bands that they were their heroes, were the bands that I was listening to as well. So, they were listening to Thin Lizzy, to Queen, to Bowie, and they were all things that I previous were listening to. Never put two and two together. Like, oh God, that does sound like a Thin Lizzy track, or and they were just a brilliant album. And I think Joe Elliott is still one of the best. He's still quite good now. He can't hit the notes as well as he used to, like everybody, but he's still he still can perform. And I think Phil Collins is very underrated as a guitarist. I think he's another great guitarist. Viv Campbell as well. Just they're just great musicians.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. No, a great choice then, and I think sort of lots of people supporting that as a suggested record. So well got. Well, I want to thank you so much, my friend. I want to try and squeeze one more person before we leave tonight. So thanks for that. Great choice. Digital round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Scott Lingard, thank you, sir. Thank you. So okay, one more. Come on, let's have one more person who wants to. Let's please. Let's have a lady who can talk about something. Possibly. Come on, Sarah, what about you? Jules. Come on, Ruth. I won't bite. It's fine. Diane, yes, you could. Come on, Sarah. Come on. We need a lady's touch. We need to bring some quality to the conversation. I didn't mean that. Come on, Jules. Jules. I'm counting it down. Where are you, Jules? Oh, Ruth, you don't have to be too shy, my love. Here I am. Look at me. I'm not saying I'm making a point about the favorite record of all time or anything, because it isn't really. It's my top 3, but. Oh, look, I'm going to count it down so we haven't got very long left. So it might have to be Barry. Not that there's anything wrong with Bazza, because Bazza's always great copy, always. But unbelievable. Right, okay. Let's see, Jules she's gone. You're conspicuous by your absence, Jules. Okay, so what we're going to do then? We're going to go. I think we're going to have to go. We're going to go Barry. Barry, mate, I know you'll always come up with the goods. So here we go. Bazza, bring him on. Here he goes. This is going to be good. I can feel it already. There he is. You're not in the bath either.
I got out especially.
Good lad. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Are you?
I'm getting better. I'm feeling better today. Yeah, I must admit. It's,
how are you?
How's life and how's things going?
Yeah, busy. Just work's a bit crazy at the minute, but yeah, it's all good.
I liked your. I did think that the grave markers was a fascinating. Fascinating thing there. Yeah, I mean, is that quite? I mean, is that from when consecrated ground has been deconsecrated and people have turned a church into a house or something and they've been removed? Is that where they come from, or how?
I don't know exactly where they come from. I could probably find out for you. I think my boss knows where they came from, but from what I've learned before in the past, they're old. They're like 200 and something years old, so they will have been used upside down to floor a new church at some point, or cathedral. When they were like 150 years old, they'll have been repurposed as a floor.
Right. Wow.
Fascinating stuff comes in. I was reading a few of the inscriptions on them, and
nuts, isn't it? Would have been a little some little guy there, or possibly a woman, but most likely it would have been at that point, if it was 200 years ago, probably a little stonemason bloke chipping away at that.
Yeah.
Perfectly rendered, beautifully done. I always find that sort of stuff. That the person who actually created those things, where were they? Who were they? Where did they come from? What was their story about? Rather than anything else. It's a fascinating thing. Really.
Yeah, the level of workmanship on the engraving is stunning. And they're still perfect now, even after 200. I think one of them was 1850. I think one of them was dated. Brilliant.
Incredible, pal. Well, let's on to the story of the night. So. No messing about. Favorite album of all time, and why?
Well, it's a Queen album, and favorites change, but this one stays true. That is my favorite. It's never gonna change. That is it for me.
Okay. So reasons.
As I've said before, Queen albums struck me as a kid, 6 and 7 years old. But this one just, it stumped me. I didn't know how they'd done it, because I'd listened to Nightly Opera before this, weirdly, and jazz. I kind of went up a bit and then came back to the early ones. But it floored me, from the beginning. All the and it was going back into my little earphones, and I was like, whoa. And then Brighton Rock, those harmony and the high voice, and who puts a guitar solo on the third album? It's like, we're here, we're doing it. and to do it, to not only release it but then go on their third headline tour in the same year. They just done, I don't know, March 74 was Queen 2, and then they went on tour in November, I think, was it, on this one? Crazy.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't know, every single song like I say, it floored me, and I fell in love with it straight away.
Do you think there's a kind of again, the fascination for me is how we find these things, because it's interesting you say that you heard opera first, and then you went to jazz, and then you went backwards, and then you found it that way. It becomes this kind of like journey of discovery, doesn't it? We're a similar age, I guess. I think I'm older than you, but the reality for me is it was the jazz album for me. Really, that was the one when I was old enough to really fully get it. That was the one that was really blowing up. And then, even though I'd heard, previous tracks, Bo Rapid, when I was a little kid, it took me a little while to go back and find it, and then start to get the continuity of it. I think the thing that fascinated me, and I wonder, I'm interested in what you think about this, is that I just think there was an incredible decision taken at the end of Queen 2, which is a fine record.
Yeah.
So a lot of Queen fans, it's the greatest record they made. Certainly probably their most rock album in lots of ways.
Quite an opus,
and very, very prog. I mean, it was a prog album, really. I mean, those records were very much a prog. They wanted to be that they were in that world, Yeah. That decision, the thing that always fascinates me is the decision that they clearly made to utilize all the stuff that they needed to get them on the radio, because they could have. I always think it's such a fascinating story with Queen, because they could easily have been that endless prog rock band that just kind of was sort of similar world as Rush, maybe they were always very highbrow, but no, they had Freddie Mercury in the ranks who said, darling, we've got to get on the radio, we've got to have people love us. And that change, the change, because it immediately blew the doors open, didn't it? Of like, anyone can like this band now,
It was quite dramatic, really, wasn't it? From Fairy Fellas, Master Stroke, and then exactly. It was a perfect pop song, wasn't it? And it's just like, whoa, they've changed. Well, obviously, people who sold out and going on the telly, but brilliant. It just showed that they never stopped evolving, and never stopped wanting to move forward and rest on the laurels, if you like.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yeah, hard to argue with that one, Mal. I mean, I'm like, I think everyone knows, my favourite's opera, but I think this is the whole point, is that it's very personal. There's a lot of reason why I love opera, is because it absolutely chimes with the period for me, when I was really beginning to understand it, and like, and I think there's a kind of, I think that's just a thing, you don't even have to explain it, do you? You know what I mean?
No.
It just is, but
without trying to sound like a bit of I am a fanboy. I'll make no bones.
Me too.
This as well, Toby, it really is apart from all the Queen stuff, it's the most important album to me.
Oh, thank you, mate.
It really is. It's
really interesting. It's really interesting you say it, because it seems to be, as time goes on with the band, it seems to be the choice. I mean, I think in the ranks of the band, I mean, funny enough, I was talking to Bruce about this not all that long ago for a number of reasons, and we were chatting about the band, and we both agreed that we both felt that when push came to shove, Young Gods for the band was kind of almost like our our crystallization moment for us all, because I think that's more to do with our journey, you know.
Yeah.
But I think if I was, you know, I would probably agree when I go back and think about the records. And I remember when I was doing the digital busking stuff, listening back on the records, Young Gods actually doesn't quite stand the test of time in the way that Don't Pray For Me does, really, in a crazy way. There's something about the youthfulness of it, really. And I think maybe that's the point. Maybe bands make their best records when they're fresh out of the box and it's the first time you've done it, you know, and you get that unbridled something, you know, I don't know.
I think that's what it was for me. You know, I was 14. I saw you supporting Marillion in Wolverhampton. Again, another time that I was floored. I was like, what was that? You know, Mickey. And I was like, oh, I need to know who this band is. And that was it for me. Then I was Little Angel, still am, you know, but I was just like, this band, I have to do this. And I grew my hair to be Mickey. And, you know, whenever I did a gig, I just wore shorts and that was it, you know, and, but I think that's what it was about the album, was the freshness, the angst, the passion, it was just all perfect for me. And it was on loop, constant loop, never off. And I absorbed it like a sponge, and it's just part of me. It really is.
Oh, well, listen, man, it's a joy to hear you say that. It really is. And can't thank you enough. And it's you know,
thank you.
It's mad how all these years have gone by and it still means so much to people. And I think that's the same thing about any record that we choose as our favorite records, is that it doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks anyway. You know, it's how it stacks up for you, you know, and what it means to you. And that's the key. But well, listen, mate, thank you. On that bombshell, I will leave you to it. Thanks again, my old son, and I will I'll catch you soon. Wish we had more time, but sadly we don't.
Have a great week, mate.
Take care.